Получается, 3 сентября мы это видео увидели, что Виталий попал в плен.
Получается, аж пришел, так, Палыч, короче, тоже ДНРовский какой-то хер, а мы как раз выстрелили нас, и он начал кортиком резать там, наших пацанов.
Узнать было тяжело, потому как за тот месяц, даже меньше, что я его не видела, но он похудел раза так в 2.
Сідайте на броню, поїхали. Він каже, нам приказу немає. А їхнє командування вже й близько не було.
Я готов приехать к вам. Но просто где гарантия, що він віддасть хлопців.
He
called me on the 28th. I was at a school parents' meeting at the time. He kept calling me, but I just hung up. I thought I'd go out and call him back. I thought the kid was starting the first grade. I had to stay. I went outside after the meeting and tried to call him, but he was already in the zone. I did not speak with him on the 28th, nor on the 29th. On the 30th, at 11 o'clock in the morning, he called me from someone else's number. As it turned out, it was Markin's phone, because he's burned down, as he told me later. He said that everything was fine with him, he was alive and healthy, I would be home soon. After that, we never spoke to each other again.
The husband of Tatiana Vilenko was near Ilovaisk for the 10th day straight. On August 28, 2014, his phone stopped answering. For a week, his family knew nothing of his fate until she saw her husband on Russian news.
On the 3rd of September, we saw this video that Vitaly was captured. He looked intimidated to me. His voice trembled somehow, but he seemed alive and well. It wasn't as if he was wounded.
15 бойцов украинской армии сами сдались ополченцам. Военные уверяют, что в поселке Старобешево провели без еды и воды 4 суток.
The Ukrainian troops, which consisted mainly of volunteer battalions, tried to recapture Ilovaisk for militants until August 28th, until they got into an encirclement. The next day, August 29th, the command seemed to have negotiated the Green Corridor with the militants for withdrawal of fighters and equipment. Ukrainian military columns were shot on the way out of town. There were also fighters from the battalion of territorial defense Kryvbas. At the beginning of the war, this battalion was supposed to be only guarding checkpoints of the city of Dnipro, but then received an order to go to the battlefield. The military from Kryvbas were almost the last to come out. Some divisions never got the retreat command. They could only move at night, through tree lines and at random, and then they were captured.
После обеда нас начали накрывать на миграды, и все, что можно было, накрывали. Со всех сторон, мы звоним своим командирам, а у них отключены телефоны.
Ночью, со 2 на 3.
On the night of September 2, 2014, I saw a video on Facebook. They posted it with the words, "Look, maybe someone will recognize them. Our guys are in the video." My husband always spoke about this friend. Vitaly Dotsuk sends your greetings. And when I saw an open military ID in the video and it read Vitaly Dotsenko, I understood that it was the same person. Then I began to look closer at the guys and realized that the person in the video was actually my husband. It was hard to recognize him because in the time I didn't see him, he had lost half of his weight.
The same video helped Natalia find her son Oleg Karpov.
They stayed behind. Their checkpoint remained. The 17th Tank Brigade says to them, "Get on the armor and go." They say there was no order. They were waiting for the order until the last moment, but their commanders were long gone. They had already gone to Zaporizhia region. Then they decided to leave themselves. They divided into 3 groups. 2 groups came out, and their group got captured.
Vladimir Tarasenko, Oleg Karpov, Andrei Markin, Ruslan Zolotarenko, Roman Timoshenko, and Vitaly Dotsenko. They are all from Kryvbas battalion and were all captured by the hitman Batya, Daddy. His true name is Yuri Safanenko, and he calls himself the ataman of the Cossack Alliance of the Don region.
Мы их накормили, напоили, на колу сидят, хлебают, довольные, счастливые. Да, отпускаем, да, кого поменяем на наших бойцов, на пленных, кого так отпустим, разберемся с ними.
After the video was published, the relatives of the captives began to look for ways to free them.
From what I recall, we met in October. I knew Natasha Karpova, Vika Markina, Vika Zolotarenko. We met, stayed in touch, told the local television about the situation, then began to go to Kiev. We went outside the presidential administration. We rallied. We went to the SBU's captive center.
At that time, volunteers, public organizations, and MPs voluntarily organized exchanges. The Joint Center for the Liberation of Captives at the SBU appeared only a year after the fighting broke out. Since then, it became almost impossible to obtain information on the whereabouts of the captives and their surnames. Everything was classified.
I got a call from the Ministry of Defense just twice. I remember well. The first call was on 20th of January, 2015. They asked if there was any news. I said no. And the second call was last year on January 11th. They said we are submitting lists for exchange. I said, what do you mean? You are only submitting them now. You've been submitting them all those years, and it was only in 2018 that you started filing. Well, yes.
These are all the documents I wrote, everything. They carried out exchanges back then. They captured their men and swapped for ours. It would have been possible to exchange if they did everything properly. Then suddenly it was over.
So you got no information about Oleg when the boys were freed?
Volunteers use their connections.
Up until mid-2015.
The SBU confirmed and even told us what their whereabouts. Then I called SBU in 2015 and they said, we've lost him.
They tried to buy out the captives, or at least ensure their names were promptly included on the exchange list. They asked for help from the MPs, Afghan war veterans, and even from criminals.
We got Afghan war veteran organizations involved so that our Afghans contacted their Afghans. I personally spoke with this Batya. I asked him to release our lads, just heard foul language in response. Get over here, he said, and I was ready to go. But where was the guarantee that he would free the guys? We talked once, then he refused all contact.
I tried to get information through those who were in prison. I tried to ask, maybe I should pay for the information. No, we do not want anything from you, they said. He's alive, sit down and rejoice. Then my parents said to me, do not worry, if there is a need, we will sell the car. To buy him out if they offer. Well, I'm still waiting and no one is doing anything.
Some did return from Batya's captivity, but not these 6 Kryvbas boys. Their blood brothers avoided conversations.
Мы лежали на голой земле.
Там, где вас фактически взяли, в посадке, возле посадки. И долго вы так лежали?
Ну, целую ночь.
Кто-то из вас был ранен?
На тот момент нет.
А с вами были эти ребята, которых я хочу спросить, Золотаренко, Тодосиенко, Маркин, Карпов, Тимошенко и Доценко?
Да.
Все были? Вы были с ними в одной машине тогда?
Mikola is not the name of this man. We changed it. Was also captured by Batya. He says Batya practiced torture and intimidation of captives. He shot legs, imitated firing squads, and much more.
Получается, аж пришел, так, Палыч, короче, тоже ДНРовский какой-то хер. А мы как раз выстроили нас, и он начал кортиком резать там, ну, наших пацанов.
Из-за чего?
Просто.
Просто так?
Да. Как всегда, вот вы укропы, и там... И получается, ну, он подходил периодически там одного, ну, подрезал, ушел там что-то, второго подошел, ну, вот такое получается. Что...
И скольких тогда человек он подрезал?
Я даже не могу сказать. Я же 3 я видел точно. Я получил тогда снегиру, и вот это она говорит, типа, иди крестик с него сними. Ну, там, я же, он ему как раз в сердце кортиком. Иди, потому что сними с него крестик, потому что он недостойный.
Mikola calls out 3 names, but we cannot confirm what happened to them. Neither can the investigation, so we will not publicize their names. The relatives of the captives carry on with hope that all 6 are still alive. Five years have passed since the Ilovaisk encirclement. The 6 Kryvbas servicemen never returned home. We do not know where they are and whether they are alive. They just disappeared in captivity. The militant Batya, who captured them and would have to bear responsibility for them, fled the self-proclaimed DPR to Russia in 2015. The subordinates of Batya either went under the control of then still alive leader Alexander Sakharyenko or were killed or arrested. One of them, Anatoly Yakubenko, even received a death sentence in the so-called DPR, after he gave evidence of the assassinations of Ukrainians in captivity.
An excerpt from the Crime Register book. On May 7th, the OCD of the DPR received admission of guilt from Mr. Anatoly Yakubenko, a soldier of the Cossack Alliance of the Don region, previously convicted, stating that in October 2015, at the direction of the troop ataman of the Cossack Alliance of the Don region, Major General of the Cossacks, Yuri Safonenko, call sign Batya, together with the servicemen of the CADR, with the call signs Palich and Kesha, he took part in the murder of 7 servicemen of the Ukrainian army, whose corpses were hidden in the Proletarsky district of the city of Donetsk.
In 2019, the Security Service of Ukraine wrote that Batya traveled to Syria as part of a group of Russian mercenaries, Wagner. Ukrainian law enforcement officers are not in a position to detain him in Russia, let alone in Syria. The disappearance of 6 soldiers for 5 years is being investigated by the General Military Prosecutor's Office of Ukraine in general proceedings about waging an aggressive war of the Russian Federation against Ukraine. And there are dozens of such stories in these proceedings. The Military Prosecutor's Office refused to provide comments on camera, but did respond in writing.
The pre-trial investigation continues, and the investigation body carries out the necessary investigative and procedural actions in order to ensure complete, comprehensive and objective study of criminal circumstances of the offences, as well as establishment and prosecution of the guilty parties and the protection of victims' rights.
Also, separately, the disappearance of the soldiers is being investigated by the National Police. There have been no court hearings yet. No suspicion was announced to anyone. The militant Batya, Yuri Safonenko, is not currently wanted.
На этом мой рассказ закончен. Большое всем спасибо и до скорой встречи.
In the practice of international courts, defendants are representatives of just the highest leadership, presidents, prime ministers, generals, commanders. To bring these people to justice, as in the case of Ukrainian Russia, within the national boundaries is impossible, but it is possible to bring to justice those who do not have immunity, who are just criminals. Our task is, at a minimum, to obtain warrants for arrests of certain war criminals and bring them before the courts and for the trial to take place, and the maximum term could be 40 years in prison, or in some cases, life imprisonment. 366 Ukrainian soldiers died, leaving the encirclement near Ilovaisk. 300 were captured. 10 Ukrainian soldiers remain in captivity. 24 are considered missing.
I do not have any photos of him in uniform. He did not send any.
А эта фотография как тут оказалась?
No idea. I'd like to know who brought it here, because I didn't have one like this. Yes, daughter asks to show her dad. I ask some of the guys to find such photos, but the guys also get upset. It's hard because they want to know the truth. They want to know where dad is, and it's hard for me, because I don't have the answers to their questions.
Я не знаю, где папа, я не знаю, когда он придет. Тоже это пугает.